Thank you and welcome to our first Borough Board meeting of the new year. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I pray that everybody had a happy new year. And obviously we are limited in what we could do this year in terms of being with family and friends. But I'm praying that each and every one of you are in good health. And for those who we know, as we look at this uptick across Queens or are suffering from COVID or in our hospitals, we continue to pray for our frontline workers. And let's just all do our part. I was down at Hillcrest High School today, and I got to witness our senior citizens who are 75 years old and up get administered the vaccine. So you should know if you are someone 75 years and older, you can receive the vaccine. We are also still, although this is happening, pushing to make sure that even with the sites that the city released in Queens, that there are more sites that come online. So I want you to know that the office has been in touch with the administration, and we're pushing them on that. If there are any ideas, please get that over to our staff. We also anticipate over the course of the next few weeks, they'll start to administer the vaccine to those 65 years old and under as well. I'm 65 and up as well. So please take advantage. What we heard today was there's been some hesitancy to take the vaccine up front in some spaces, in some communities. So I want to especially stress to communities of color that we have to take the vaccine, and that I've seen many individuals, including our frontline workers I've witnessed at hospitals over the course of the last few weeks, take the vaccine, and it's safe. So I think we all have an obligation to preach that and to spread that message as we move forward. So there are disparities even in who's showing up to get the vaccine as we speak now. And we know we saw those disparities with COVID. We saw it with the testing sites early. We want to make sure that we do as much as we can to close the gap there. So welcome, and I'm going to hop right into it. I want to welcome our board chairs and my colleagues in the city council this evening for our first meeting. And I'm going to go straight into it and introduce the Department of City Planning. The Department of City Planning is New York City's primary land use agency and is instrumental in designing the city's physical and socioeconomic framework. City planning lies at the nexus of many disciplines. It blends theoretical insights from the social sciences and natural sciences with urban planning and design concepts. Through this merger of ideas, it engages communities to bring about healthier, more inclusive, more vibrant places. With us this evening is Alexis Wheeler, the Deputy Director of the New York City Department of City Planning's Queens office. This evening, the Queens Borough Board will vote on adopting the zoning for Coastal Flood Resiliency text amendment. This text amendment was presented to the Queens Borough Board this past November. With the experience of rebuilding after Superstorm Sandy and emergent best practices, the ZCFR is a continuing effort to refine and codify the zoning resolution to facilitate coastal resiliency, streamline the ongoing rebuilding still to be completed, and I look forward to the projected climate-related flood concerns, addressing many of those climate-related flood concerns as we move forward. This is the third zoning text amendment following the earlier efforts of the 2013 flood text and the 2015 recovery text, in which actually I was the zoning chairman at that time. So with that being said, it is an honor to have you to continue to try to build a more resilient and sustainable Queens. And I think that this text amendment will be helpful in achieving the goals, although this is not the end of what we need to do to ensure that Queens is greener and more sustainable and resilient. So Alexis, thank you so much for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Borough Board, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Borough President Richards. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight to talk about zoning for coastal flood resiliency, or what we also call ZCFR. It just rolls right off the tongue. A proposal that is the result of nearly a decade of outreach and research that DCP began immediately after Superstorm Sandy in 2012. Since first being established as a temporary emergency text amendment in 2013, The citywide text amendment has been refined over the years with input directly from our communities and in coordination with our partner city agencies. These provisions look to better protect all of us in the reality of climate change. ZCFR was shaped by very real lessons learned on the ground with the impacted communities after Hurricane Sandy, and furthered by analysis of resilient construction practices in the floodplain. The final proposal's intention is to improve upon the temporary resiliency measures that have already been implemented and to make them permanent in order to promote long-term resiliency across the city and to help support post-disaster recovery. ZCFR is one strategy in a wide range of efforts to increase the city's resilience to future storm surges and coastal flooding through updates to the zoning resolution. At this point, the majority of your boards have received individual presentations about the proposal, and the boards who have provided recommendations have done so in approval. Thank you, all of you, for your hard work and your efforts. We really appreciate those contributions. So I'm here tonight alongside the fantastic team, Manuela Paladaico from our zoning division, Hala Salah and Joy Rezor from the Queen's office, and Danielle DeSerbo from Government Affairs to answer any outstanding questions any of you may have about zoning for coastal flood resiliency ahead of the vote. So thank you all so much for your time this evening, as well as your local insights and your feedback.
Thank you so much for that, Alexis. We'll go to anyone who has comments or statements they would like to make. Well, comments or statements. Who has a statement they would like to make? Any board members, any council members? All right, seeing none, I will now open the floor for a motion to adopt the text amendment.
I'm sorry, I have my hand raised in the chat. I have my hand raised. This
Oh,
is
in the
Dolores
chat, I
Orr.
couldn't see your hand. Okay, gotcha. All right, go ahead, Ms. Orr.
Good evening, everyone. Dolores Orr, Community Board 14. I just want to remind everyone when this was presented last month, and I hope that you can appreciate those of us that do live in the 1% annual chance floodplain, that we were on the ground and lived the nightmare. And last month, I did raise the concern that the definition of the vulnerable population should be expanded. It should not just be nursing homes. Those, and we put that in our comments that we submitted on December 15th, that we should be expanding the definition of vulnerable populations in this particular floodplain to include adult homes, assisted living, group homes, and homeless shelters. Those populations are as vulnerable as just the nursing homes during a catastrophe of a major flood. In addition to that, beyond that, our board also supports overall, did a tremendous job. There were things implemented interim after Sandy, and they've become permanent, and we certainly appreciate that. But we also feel in terms of bringing additional senior population into this floodplain throughout the city, not just in Rockaway, but throughout the city, is not a wise move. And we therefore ask that any new senior housing built in New York City that is in the 1% annual chance floodplain, that new housing only be occupied by current residents of the community board, that we do not bring additional seniors into this floodplain. In addition to that, as development continues in these high vulnerable areas, that part of the study as to whether this housing should be built needs to include the review of current roadways available for evacuation. You can't add 8,000 units of housing, 5,000 units of housing, even 1,000 units of housing if there's not enough roadway for people to evacuate. And we had 5 points. I'll just present those 3 to my fellow chairs for consideration as part of the adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So we're gonna call who's calling them? Oh, okay, we're gonna go to Mike.
We have some more people
Okay,
that
Mike.
raised their hands. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hands up.
CB7 and CB10.
Okay.
Sorry, do I have the floor, Borough President?
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to also just raise a few concerns that we voted in favor at our board as well, but there were a few issues that were raised. The first one being that folks were just concerned that while this was a good step in the right direction as a general matter, that we did think probably further attention needs to be paid to this area, and we're hoping that there's going to be continued focus on it, and that we can continue to get further information on how we can improve zoning within the floodplain going forward. And then a couple of areas that folks were particularly interested in our district was how the zoning text amendment was going to affect landmark districts. We have a landmark district in our area, and people were not sure exactly how this was going to affect their ability to work on their property going forward, and also the use of generators, which was an issue during the storm, and people were not sure how they could get approval to incorporate generators into their property, and how this would be incorporated into the amendment. So I just wanted to raise those as well, because they were part of the approval at our board level similarly.
Thank you. Who's next?
Or 10?
Yes, 10.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Before I speak, I do have to make a disclosure. The home that I own is within the area that is covered by a portion of the ZCFR, which is the Howard Beach rezoning. However, I did receive in writing from Conflicts of Interest Board that I can speak and that I am entitled to vote on it. Board 10 also recommended approval. However, we did also have some comments that we included and incorporated into our response to city planning. In regard to ULURP number N210095 ZRY, we request that the text amendment be modified to include floor area ratio bonuses to 1 and 2 family new and altered residential developments in residential zoning districts located in flood hazard zones due to the loss of cellars, because they are not allowed to be constructed. So that would allow for homeowners to regain some of the space that they lost. We also would request that all required parking for the residential developments to be located at the on-grade first floor level when a property fronts on a street that is of substandard width and does not provide curbside parking on both sides of the street. That's a concern. In regard to specifically to the Howard Beach rezoning, similar but not as extensive as what Dolores had to say about community facilities. When the Hamilton Beach area was rezoned, incorporated into the special coastal zone, there was a provision that no community facilities with sleeping accommodations would be allowed within that area. We would ask that that same provision be incorporated into the Howard Beach rezoning. One of the issues for us is there is very limited access to the old Howard Beach area. 157th Avenue, 156th Avenue, and Cohansey Street are the only 3 areas, but the bulk of the area to be rezoned is south of 157th Avenue. So anything that shuts off 157th Avenue would make all of the rest of the area unable to get out. We would also point out that the jet fuel line that runs to JFK runs through 157th Avenue. So there is always a possibility that there could be an issue there that would prevent evacuation. So we feel that it is not a wise or prudent thing to be adding any community facilities that have sleeping accommodations and add vulnerable populations to that area. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe CB7 is next.
Yes, thank you. Just first thing, we listened to the presentation. We voted in favor of it. But as I mentioned the last time, we were just concerned, even though I know this is a text amendment, Mr. Borough President, we're concerned about that there's still other things that go along with this, and we're concerned that the other city agencies like DEP start looking at the CSO outputs and stuff to start increasing them, because the water's got to go in somewhere. Right now, we're pulling the not letting them go into basements and stuff like that, but those tanks either have to be increased or runoff has to be put somewhere. So we understand that this is a text amendment, but we think that the other agencies should put on warning and let them know that they better start evaluating and start looking to increase the CSO capacities in them. And that's what we have. We voted in favor of it.
Thank you. And I agree. I mean, this is not, once again, there's still a lot more that needs to be done. So there's no magic bullet that fixes everything with this text amendment. But, you know, just as we did in 2013 and 2015, and now we continue to expand and build on it. I'm going to go to Renetta from CB3.
Hello, everyone. Queens Community Board number 3 was in favor of the zoning for coastal flood resiliency, and we had 3 recommendations: that the Department of City Planning, with all its ability, keep Community Board 3 informed of the progress and development of the zoning amendment. 2, to provide subsidized low-cost loans for homeowners for property damage caused by storm and wastewater backups onto property, and any alterations of property caused by this law should be a low-cost loan or grant that would be forgiven. And the 3rd, subsidies for backflow prevention devices for residential properties.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if Alexis wants to respond to any of these.
Sure, and my team members can also handle some of these. I think going back to Dolores's comments about long-term care facilities, I do want to make sure that we're sort of distinguishing between some of the types of vulnerable residents. Vulnerable populations is a really expansive term. In this case, we are really thinking about the people that are actually under some form of nursing care. And in those cases, and there's been a lot of analysis and study of this, in those cases, the process of moving many of the people who are in the midst of some form of nursing care like that oftentimes suffer significantly from the process of being moved. There are a lot of the other categories of vulnerable populations where people are still relatively independent in their living and would be able to either safely shelter in place if they're in a resilient building, or be able to sustain the process of evacuation more effectively. And so we really do distinguish between those 2 different types of vulnerable populations here. And so that's part of why we think that long-term care facilities in particular are really the ones that are more critical to be calling out. And with respect to just letting the CB7 team know that we have had some follow-up conversations already with our partner agencies. And we definitely agree that trying to formulate some strategies on a broader expanse, especially when dealing with city services and infrastructure, is definitely a priority across the city. And I don't know that if any of my team members want to jump in on any of these answers as well. Definitely appreciate the comments that all of your boards have been providing us. And so we have certainly taken a look and been reviewing all of that. Joy, I don't know if you want to be speaking to Old Howard Beach.
Sorry. Sure, I can answer that. So Betty, I know we had spoken about those concerns during the Land Use Committee meeting and also during the public hearing for Old Howard Beach. And I know I had let John Calganelli know about the cellar issue, that a lot of the homes within Community District 10 were able to have cellars prior to zoning. So a lot of them we want to maintain, even if they're non-conforming currently. And so you would be able to, and homeowners would be able to, if they wanted to make their homes a little bit more flood resilient, sort of calculate the floor area within the home and bump it up, accounting for that extra cellar space, so you actually don't end up losing that. And I think Manuela could be explain this a little bit more eloquently, but essentially you would not lose that cellar space. You'd be able to build up to 20% more than what's permitted inside of the zoning district. So even though the building itself would not be conforming, you would still maintain the recreational space. And yeah, so if there are any other questions about that, I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, maybe if I can, oh, sorry. Just to jump in to explain a little bit of the framework that we prepared to enable relocation of space below grade. So basically, the way we designed the framework is you would take the first floor with habitable space, so that could be a basement located slightly below grade. And from that, you would measure that height from that floor all the way to the ridge line of the building. And basically that height can be basically put up above the design floor elevation. The floor area, as Joy mentioned, when you calculate it and you include the habitable space as part of the calculations, provided you don't exceed 1.2 the FAR. So basically, you know, if you have an FAR of 0.5, you'll be able to keep 0.6, or if it's 0.6, you'll be able to keep 0.72 within that building after it's you know, jacked up and elevated. So it's not perfect, but we did consider all of those concerns after we did outreach with all of you and try to design a framework that can keep much of the space that you have.
Thank you.
And maybe just to answer on landmarks, just because it has been a concern from all over the city's floodplain. So all the rules that we have in the project are applicable to landmarks in the same way they're applicable to other buildings in the floodplain. The only difference is really the process to get approval. Buildings that are landmark, they will have to go to the Landmark Planning Commission and get approval from them, you know, just to make sure that buildings are not getting out of scale or out of character. And so, but the zoning proposal really treats them in the same way, so we can advance resiliency in those buildings as well.
All righty, thank you. I think Dolores raised her hand again. Let's go. Dolores?
No, it's okay. Thank you.
All right, no problem. All righty, are there any other questions, comments? All righty, seeing none, I'll ask for a
Vinny
motion.
has his hand up. I don't know if he's.
Yeah,
4-5.
trying to
Go
unmute.
ahead. Oh, okay, go ahead, Kenny.
Sorry. My concern is many of us of my age that live alone wind up living on the basement level or the first floor. And when you have to elevate, it becomes a difficult problem. So is there support for providing lifts or ramps for those of us, not me personally, but those of my age that may need to live on the first floor only and have healthcare workers take care of us? So does this provide for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to address it because, of course, ADA accessibility, it's really crucial for this. So the proposal does consider that design, and we are allowing ramps and chairlifts to be considered permitted obstruction in all types of open areas that are required by zoning. There are currently some hindrances in the ZR, so we are doing that actually in a citywide level across all zoning districts and all building types. So that it's really to facilitate retrofitting or new construction to incorporate those elements, even if they're not required by ADA code. The other thing that I was going to mention that we tend to forget, the proposal also has floor area exemptions for ground floors that are flood proofed. And one of the main reasons for us to do that is to encourage and enable buildings to have the ground floor as the main access floor. And then from there, you are within a climate or, a protected, I guess, environment. And then from there, you can go up within the building. Currently, if we don't allow that flare exemption and the high flexibility we are proposing as part of the text amendment, buildings may not have enough space to be designed that way. And that would kind of force ramps and lifts to be put in the external portion of the building, which is not as great of an access point as if you could have that internally. So that's, I guess, those are the two main areas that we are advancing as part of the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All righty. So any other questions, comments, or concerns? All righty, I'll ask for a motion to adopt.
I make a motion that we adopt with the concerns that have been expressed, taken into consideration as this moves forward through the rest of the process.
I second.
All righty. All right, so I will start to call the names. All right, we'll start with CB1, Marie Torniali. You're on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, Lisa Andela, CB2.
Yep. Yes.
Renetta English, CB3.
Yes.
Mary Lena. I'm getting used to all the names, so don't beat me up. Giampino, did I get it right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, you're
CB4.
good. Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. All righty. Vincent R. Corey Jr.
Or
Alexa Wiseman, CB6.
Yes.
Eugene Kelty Jr., CB7.
Yes.
Martha Taylor, CB8.
Yes, and mine's an easy name.
Kenichi Wilson, CB9.
Yes.
Betty Brayton, CB10.
Yes.
Michael Badubin McWan, CB11.
Yes.
Princess Dobbs McGee, CB12.
Yes.
Good to see you. Brian Block, CB13. You're on mute, Brian.
I thought you were gonna do it for me. Okay, yes.
No, we're not doing it for you.
Okay, fine.
mute
Yes.
him all the time.
Hit your own button, all right?
And then I'll mute myself back.
Yeah, mute yourself back.
All right,
I'm gonna mute you now for that. CB 14, Dolores Orr.
So unfortunately, because the board voted yes with conditions and city planning has indicated they're not willing to expand the vulnerable population definition, community board 14 votes no.
Okay, Peter, all right, we're gonna go to council members. Councilmember Koo, District 20.
Aye, I vote yes.
All righty, Councilmember Barry Gudenchik.
I want to thank you for pronouncing Grudenchik correctly.
It only took me 5 years to pronounce it.
Well, you sat next to me, you abandoned me. I vote yes.
Your building looks familiar in your background.
I love my building.
Councilmember Adams. Does she have to hop off?
Here, I am here.
All right, you're here, okay.
I am here, and Happy New Year, Borough Board. I vote yes.
All righty. All righty, somebody tallied all of the votes?
Well, one more.
Did I miss?
Don't forget me, my
Paul, you're on. Hey,
Paul.
Councilmember Vallone. I know that place behind you too.
Yeah.
Paul to you.
Hey, Barry, nice haircut. It's looking familiar. I like it. I like it.
Alone, and I got the Richards done today, okay?
That's right. You finally cut it.
I vote aye, yes on all. Happy, healthy New Year to everyone. And welcome to our new BP. Way to go, big man.
Thank you. Great to see
Got
you.
a Councilmember Holden.
Aye, and I want to just congratulate Barry on the clean shaving look there, and you look terrific. Nice to have Barry back.
Thank you, Bob.
And I want to welcome the Borough President, Donovan Richards. It looks great back there, your background. You look at home. Welcome you.
I know that spot.
Thank you. All righty. All righty. All right, with that being said, the motion was adopted.
Hold it. I think he said yes.
I said yes.
Said yes.
Carolina, y'all are gonna read the vote count?
Sure, absolutely. CB1, yes. CB2, yes. CB3, yes. CB4, yes. CB5, yes. CB6, yes. CB7, yes. CB8, yes. CB9, yes. CB10, yes. CB11, yes. CB12, yes. CB13, yes. CB14, no. All council members present voted yes. That includes Councilmember Malone, Councilmember Ku, Councilmember Grodenchik, Councilmember Adams, and Councilmember Holden.
All righty, thank you. With that being said, the motion was adopted. Thank you. All righty, we now are gonna move into a presentation by the New York City Campaign Finance Board, they're on. The New York City Campaign Finance Board administers one of the strongest, most effective campaign finance systems in the country. Through a city referendum in 1988, New York City voters approved a charter revision establishing the Campaign Finance Board. The independent, nonpartisan agency is charged with limiting the role of influence of private money in the political process by providing public matching funds to candidates running for city office. The CFB is also mandated to publish a voter guide and provide public disclosure of campaign finance information. With us this evening is Ali Swatik, Director of Policy and Research for the New York City Campaign Finance Board. Ms. Swatik will deliver a presentation on the ranked choice voting system that will be implemented for upcoming elections in our city, including my own former seat, where there are at least 10 people running. So we'll be one of the first elections where this new reform is actually administered. Ms. Swatek will provide the Queens Borough Board with informational resources and touch on training events of ranked choice voting to ensure understanding and anticipation of elections. Welcome, Ms. Swatek. Please begin. And once again, I think it's very important that we get this information out to our communities. And one of the reasons we wanted to have the CFB here today is to make sure that you're aware of this new voting system, and that if there are any questions or concerns, that those are raised. So I want to welcome you, Ms. Swatek. You may begin.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much to the Queens Borough President's Office for inviting me. This is my first ever Borough Board meeting, so I'm especially excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen. I have a really short presentation for you all. And let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Super. Okay, so again, thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Ali Swatik. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the Campaign Finance Board. I'm here to give you an overview of ranked choice voting and some additional information about the CFB's outreach in Queens ahead of your special elections, as the Borough President so aptly described. I wasn't expecting such a robust description of the Campaign Finance Board. So I will just say that we are a nonpartisan independent city agency. A lot of folks know that we administer the public matching funds program, but not everyone knows that we also have a voter engagement area called NYC Votes. And that's because it's just a more recent addition to our purview. We're only, I think, 8 or 10 years old at this point for NYC Votes. But in addition to that, we have a charter mandate to conduct voter education and outreach, introducing ranked choice voting to New Yorkers. So I'm going to give like a very basic overview of ranked choice voting, and then I'm going to very heavily pitch that everyone attend our Train the Trainer events, because it gives a fantastic, incredibly thorough overview of what ranked choice voting is. But I'll start with the most basic question for you all. What is ranked choice voting? And we're going to abbreviate it RCV going forward, just because ranked choice voting is a bit of a mouthful. It's a new way for New York City voters to elect their local representatives. Voters can rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference instead of just one, which is how we used to vote. You do single choice elections. This gives voters more say in who wins, it increases civility, and it can lead to more diverse candidates, as far as we have seen in other jurisdictions. So I'm just repeating some of the advocacy points that led us to have this ranked choice voting ballot question added to the ballot in 2019 by the Charter Revision Commission. So advocacy groups and voters had identified that this would be an improvement on elections. Almost 74% of New Yorkers voted yes on this ballot question. And what we saw was pretty much across all of New York, voters voted in favor of this. It wasn't like only certain areas were. All right, so here's a cheat sheet for ranked choice voting in New York City. It's going to start being used in January 1st, 2021. We're past that now. And that's why we're going to be using it in the special election for District 24 and District 31 in Queens. So ranked choice voting is only going to be used in special and primary elections for city offices. It's not going to be used in any general elections. And this is something that we've been highlighting because it's a little confusing. It's also only going to be used in special and primary elections for the offices of mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council member. So these are what I'm referring to as city offices. It's not going to be used for any federal or state races, and it won't be used for judicial elections either. This last part is really important to know because it means that some ballots will have ranked choice and single choice elections. That's going to be happening in the primary election. We have a Manhattan DA's race, for example, that will be single choice, but mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council on Manhattan ballots will be voted on using ranked choice voting. So I'm going to go into a rundown of the education and outreach rollout that the Campaign Finance Board is a part of. So when will voters use ranked choice voting in 2021? We've mentioned this a couple times now. The Queens special elections that are happening in February will utilize ranked choice voting, and that's all registered voters in council districts 24 and 31. Next up, we have Bronx special elections in March. That's all registered voters in council districts 11 and 15. And then lastly, the primary election in June, where all New Yorkers registered to a political party will be able to vote in the primary election. Okay, again, Queens special election. First up is Queens District 24. The special election takes place on February 2nd. Early voting is taking place from January 23rd to the 31st. I probably don't have to tell all of you guys this, but we included a map so folks know where District 24 is. It's in central Queens. And then next up is Queens District 31. The election is taking place on February 23rd with early voting from February 13th to the 21st. And you can see District 31 at the bottom of this map there. I also wanted to include a example ballot from District 24, just so folks could get a sense of what it looks like in the actual format that you will be able to see. So I was really excited that the Board of Elections shared this with us. It's an example of the format of the actual ballot. It gives you an idea of what a write-in candidate would look like as well at the very bottom. And this is also displayed in Bengali. So we're really excited about being able to take a look at this ballot. I'm just going to describe now some of the steps that the Campaign Finance Board is taking to educate voters. So first and foremost, we're mailing a postcard to every single registered voter who is going to have a Queens special election. So in District 24, that's about 85,000 registered voters. In District 31, it's about 92,000 registered voters. And the postcard is going to be very basic. We tested this postcard out with about 50 New York City voters. They did a really in-depth interview with the Center for Civic Design. And about 30% of those voters said they thought this was enough information for them to go on by. The rest of them, 70%, said they needed to go to the website to more clearly understand what was going on. And so we wanted to make sure that we were giving the information that was enough for those 30% of voters to be able to maybe even take this postcard to their polling site with them or be able to help them fill out their absentee ballot just because it is really basic. So it starts out, ranked choice voting is here. Starting this year, New Yorkers will use ranked choice voting in primary and special elections for local offices like City Council. You can now rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference instead of choosing just one. And
Allie, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you make the the images bigger on your end or no? They're a little small.
Oh, I'm sorry. Interesting. Are you able to see, is this larger here?
The image on the left side is a little bigger than the one. Yeah, it's not as big, but it's okay.
Sorry, are you seeing my notes slides or are you seeing the actual presentation?
I'm seeing both the presentation and the notes.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, that's never once happened before.
Sorry, just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, I'm honestly not quite sure
Can
how
we,
to.
can we just do the presentation and get done with it instead of lilting back and forth garbage?
Okay, so is everybody able to see the slides that I have up right now? Does this make it better?
Yeah.
Yes, much better.
Okay, so sorry about that, everyone. The notes has never shown up before when I've shared my screen on Zoom, which I do on a daily basis, pretty much. So this is here, I'll go back so everyone can take a look at this. So this is a sample of the back of the postcard, and basically I just wanted to give you guys a sense of what this looks like in a larger form, since apparently you can only see this tiny version. So we're focusing on voter-centric messaging. You can now rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference instead of choosing just one. We go through the steps for marking a ballot. So step 1, pick your first choice candidate, completely fill in the oval next to their name under the first column. Step 2, if you have a second choice candidate, fill in the oval next to their name under the second column. Step 3, you can rank up to 5 choices, but you can still just vote for one candidate if you prefer. And then we have to the left of the correctly marked ballot, we have 2 examples of how to not mark your ballot. So it would be voting for every candidate for every single rank. So first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice. We don't want folks to do that because it's basically the same as just voting for that candidate first, and their ballot wouldn't go anywhere after that point. And then the second piece is if you're voting for every candidate as rank 1, that means that your ballot actually can't be processed. It would be a total error and the machine would reject your ballot. So we want to make sure that voters know that is not the proper way to vote. The larger ballot is the way to do it. Okay, and this is the back of the postcard. It just shows, and this is customized per special election. So it'll say you have a special election for City Council District 24 on February 2nd with ranked choice voting. Early voting starts January 23rd. And then if you go to our landing page, nyccfb.info/ranked choice voting, /RCV, you can find out how to fill out your ballot, how your vote will be counted, and it goes into greater detail about that, as well as why we're using ranked choice voting. All right, so the next thing I just wanted to describe is we work really closely with community partners in doing voter outreach. So we're relying on community partners to get the word out to every neighborhood in New York City. We rely on community partners because they understand how to break down information in ways that will resonate with their neighbors and how to amplify education efforts through person-to-person outreach. With that in mind, we're hosting Train the Trainer sessions for those who plan to educate voters in their own community. And these sessions will explain how ranked choice voting works, cover frequently asked questions, and then also share best practices for how to educate voters. We are also partnering with the Queens BP's office, the Civic Engagement Commission, and the Mayor's Office Democracy NYC initiative for a special training for Queens Borough Board chairs and district managers. That's you all. And the first training is on Tuesday, January 19th at 5:30. We're holding a second one on January 26th at the same time. And these will all be virtual on Zoom. If you want to sign up for a Train the Trainer on our website, we host them every week on Wednesday from 12 to 1:30 and Thursday from 5:30 to 7. And I can send out this link or post it in the chat if folks want to have access to it. We're also hosting a Voters with Disabilities focused training on January 20th from 12 to 1:30. We're hosting that in partnership with the New York City Board of Elections. Their ADA coordinator will join us. And we are also demoing the ballot marking device using ranked choice voting. We'll have an ASL interpreter and closed captions available. And we will also be recording that video and posting it to our website so folks can access it later. Lastly, I just wanted to post a couple of resources that we've already established for ranked choice voting on our website. So general voting information is voting.nyc, but then we have a special website specific for ranked choice voting. We have a frequently asked questions page. We also are sharing out social media if folks want to post it to their Instagram or Twitter accounts, as well as if you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, it's at NYC Votes. Okay, and this is my contact information. If anyone wants to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have now, but if you want to ask any other in-depth questions, I'm more than willing to talk to everyone. So please reach out.
Great. I'll just start with two. So you said there are two special elections coming up. What have you done in those respective communities to do outreach? And I'm also interested in hearing a little bit about what your language access strategy is. Because although, there has been some controversy with ranked choice voting, and and I was obviously a big supporter of ranked choice from its inception. So I am not opposed to ranked choice, but even on the other side, there are those who just oppose it. Period. There are some legitimate concerns that they're raising around language access, around ensuring that the outreach is being done. So we're probably less than a month in for at least these two first elections, and I have not seen any meetings or events planned, and the time is of essence. And unfortunately, the communities that will have the hardest time adapting to this are the communities that, just as we know in COVID, don't have a digital divide, have already an excessive amount of barriers that may prevent them from actually being able to really understand what this is about. So I just wanted to raise those concerns because they are real. And once again, I'm a supporter of ranked choice voting, but just wanted to make sure that I put those concerns out. And I know others will raise questions too, and we'll go to them. But tell me about these two elections. Tell me about what you've done thus far.
Yep. So last week we hosted 2 train the trainer sessions. We had almost 200 community groups, individuals who are part of community groups attend. We had co-sponsorship from Assemblywoman Nellie Rosick's office. So we also were co-sponsoring with India House, Women for Afghan Women, specifically in the Bengali community. We found that that's really important to reach out to, as well as Chaya. And so that was last week. Going forward, I mentioned we're planning on having training co-sponsored with your office, and we're really looking forward to that. I think that's a great starting point as well for the whole of Queens, because as we know, there's these 2 special elections, but then we're all going across the whole city, have the opportunity to vote in the primary elections if we're registered to a political party, and use ranked choice voting then. I think there was some hesitancy to start doing outreach before we were able to use ranked choice voting, since there was a special election in the Bronx. That's a point of, I understand why folks don't agree and think that we needed to do it sooner, but that was kind of the reasoning behind that. We're actively reaching out to the organizations that we partner with in Queens, including the Queens Public Library, many of the CUNY branches in Queens. We have a specific youth voter outreach coordinator at the CFB who works with CUNY branches to educate their students and to help turn them into trainers as well, where they can talk to their peers. It's called the peer-to-peer network. So as far as your question around language access, our materials are available in the 4 Voting Rights Act languages, which are Spanish, Korean, Chinese, and Bengali. I understand, and we are currently working with the Civic Engagement Commission on expanding those languages out to the designated citywide languages. So that would add Russian, Haitian Creole, Arabic, Urdu, French, Polish, and I believe that is all of them. I think I may be missing one.
Now, let me ask you this. All right, it sounds great, but all of these organizations are challenged, and I know they don't have all the resources they need. So are you providing them resources to do outreach? And then secondly, is direct mail going to people's mail? How soon can people, the general public, know about ranked choice voting? Because I'm convinced that the general public of Queens is not aware of what they're about to walk into.
Yep. So our postcard for the special election in Council District 24 just was mailed out on the 8th. It's hitting mailboxes starting today. So we're hoping that folks will understand, as far as we know, 30% of voters who saw our postcard understood sort of intuitively how to rank. And if they don't, our website is available in the 4 Voting Rights Act languages, as well as English, to describe further how their vote will be counted and why there are reasons that you would want to utilize ranking. I think so another thing that I will highlight is we publish and mail out the voter guide for the primary elections. We're integrating ranked choice voting extremely closely into the voter guide. So that will go to every single household in New York City with a registered voter. So about 4.6 million households in New York City receive our voter guide ahead of the June primary elections. So we have, I think, a really good reach for as far as direct mail. We also utilize social media pretty aggressively. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but then also we purchase paid search ads and make sure that we appear on the places where folks who live in the special elections districts are actually visiting. So
all right, so I'm gonna, in the interest of time, because I know other people have questions, but I do want to also ask, I hear you on the social media stuff, and I'm not trying to say that our senior citizens aren't on Facebook and Instagram and social media, but a lot are not.
Yep.
So how are you working with the Department for the Aging? I know my voters. I know, I know who's in public housing. I know who's living in places without internet. So I think we're a little bit behind the 8 ball, and I'm hoping that CFB and others are really going to speed up. And we all have a part to play here. I'm not running from responsibility here, and this is why we reached out to do the town hall. But I think it needs to be all hands on deck, because right now I can tell you the general public is unaware of what they're about to walk into. So I just wanted to add that and go to the next questions. We're going to go to Brian Block, CB13.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Borough President. Ali, let me just say this. 31 encompasses the area where I'm the chair, which is parts of Laurelton, Rosedale. And I've been in conversations. I was at one of their civics last week, and they have no knowledge. I mean, they know about ranked choice voting, but there's no literature, no information. They're concerned about it. I can tell you that for a fact. Just last week, I was part of their membership, their civic meeting, one of the civic meetings, and they're struggling looking for information on this. So I can tell you right now that the one area where the special election is going to be taking place, some of the folks in the Laurelton, Rosedale, Springfield Gardens community, as the borough president was saying, are a little challenged with regards to getting this information. I believe we're going to have a speaker at CB13 this month. So I'll tell the folks in those communities to come to my board meeting, but I'm just saying what I'm hearing on the ground, that they're not receiving the information. They're going to be pretty shocked about this ranked choice voting. Just putting it out there.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think hearing from folks on the ground is incredibly important. I just posted my email address in the chat box if folks want to connect us to organizations that they think would be especially valuable for us to reach out to. We will conduct individual trainings for those groups. We also, I will say, the postcard that we are sending out to voters has not yet hit mailboxes yet. So I understand, I'm very sympathetic to the fact that folks haven't received anything yet. It's a matter of time, and this week it should hit their mailbox. So, but thank you very much, Brian, and feel free to reach out to me if you
we will. Thank you. I'm
want
just
to schedule.
I understand, as I was told by my district manager, that someone from your office is coming to be at a general board meeting, and I will get the word out to tell people from everywhere within CB13 that they should attend because we're getting it from the source. I'm just saying what I heard. Yeah, it was better. What better people to get it to from the source? But I'm just saying that when I was at 2 civics last week, they're struggling for the information. I'll just put it to you like that.
Yep.
But thank you anyway. Thank you, Mr. Borough President. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I think Dolores Orr had a question, and I see Vincent too. Dolores, we'll go to you.
Hi, thank you, Borough President. Like Brian, Community Board 14, half of our community board is part of District 31, and nobody has a clue. So I'm wondering if you can put together some sort of flyer with the pictures of the postcard and a little intro and where they can get more information, send it to the community boards, and then we can blast it out. We have more than 400 organizations on our mailing list that we can at least introduce it to them. And the other thing may be, in Rockaway, we still have local papers and people do read the local papers. If you can either do a press release or if you have money to do an ad in those papers. Also, I would think in the Bronx, some of the language papers. And I was going to say one other thing, and now I don't remember what it was. But if we'll help get it out. Oh, I would like you to come to our February meeting for Community Board 14. We'll send a formal request. Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dolores. Those are great ideas. We're in the process of creating a flyer right now. So I love that you just said that. Specifically for folks to send out in their email blasts, the exact thing that you just described.
And I'm a coordinator at a polling site, and I can tell you 90% of the people, when we say, did you bring your voter registration card you got in the mail? Nobody knows what we're talking about. I tell them to go home and look at the pile of mail they have on their table, and that's where it will be, or they've thrown it out. So I agree with the postcards needing to go out, but I can tell you most of the voters that come in, at least half of them, if not more, do not. They just toss it. They don't read it.
Yeah, I think that's why we're trying to approach this from a couple of different angles. I think that Borough President is right to mention it does involve all hands on deck. So I really appreciate you giving me that feedback.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going now to CB7, Eugene.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know if you said it before in your presentation. I saw half the screen and stuff. Quick question. Again, when we were doing the ballots, normally it was a lot easier. We just did one dot and that was it. Now we're going to do possibly 5 dots. Is the ballot going to be paper with pencils, or because if they make a mistake, how are they going to get a new ballot? What's going on with that?
So so if you go to vote in person and you do not complete, if your ballot gets rejected when you put it through the scanner, you overvoted or something like that, the poll worker will give you another ballot. We're using the same ballot scanners and the same paper ballots as we have in previous elections. So that part has not changed. That's why I didn't mention that. Thank God we didn't have to educate voters about a whole new system of voting plus all new voting technology. That's not taking place. We're using this.
No, I understand that, and I thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that now that we have options of choices, like, oh, I can pick 3 people, I could go in and say, well, I'm going to use Jean first, and then Tommy second. Oh, I didn't make a mistake. I don't want Tommy. I want Mary. Do they erase it, or do they have to go get a whole new ballot again?
When you complete your ballot, you're saying if you mark someone in, and then you want to go back and not mark that person anymore?
That's correct. That's what I'm
just
just
saying. You would get a new ballot, yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's going to be a problem to you because I said before we were only back in one little spot, then we went to the next section. This one, they're going to go right across with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the ballot things. And if they make that mistake and they say, or just like you said, if with the names being in different languages, because there's such a gap between each name, they're not going to see that they put that person for the second ballot. They also put it for the third ballot. Of course, it's up and down. And I just want to be aware that the poll person is going to take a beating with a number of invalid ballots and stuff like that. So the more you get your instructions out, the better it will be to move it along a lot faster at the polling place.
Yep, no, that's really good feedback too. The Board of Elections is distributing specific instructions to
Thank you.
poll workers. So yeah, that's something that's definitely on our radar.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. CB5?
Yes, so if I were a candidate and I told all my constituents, just fill out number 1 for me and forget the rest, does that invalidate the ballot?
So that would not invalidate the ballot. However, we are encouraging voters specifically. So I can't speak to what candidates are going to tell people. My focus is on just explaining to voters about how they should fill out their ballot and how this is different from the way that they used to vote.
Well,
So candidates will say a
why
lot
would
of
I
things.
Why would I tell anyone to fill out anything else? Vote
Okay.
for me, number 1, hell with everybody else.
Okay, great question. And I think we get into a much greater detail of this in the training. And if you attend the training that's on the 19th, that's sponsored by the Borough President's Office, I will go into more detail than you've ever wanted so that you can fully understand why you would want to say to your supporters that you should vote for me first. But there's other supporters that maybe are not going to vote for you first that you're going to want to talk to and ask them to vote for you
So then the
second or
question
third.
is, should I tell them to vote for me first, second, third, fourth, and fifth?
You should not.
Vincent,
You
you're
should-
not running for election, so.
Too old
Well,
for
now
that.
you're really stumping me,
like
so I'm glad you're not. No, in all seriousness, there's no advantage to a candidate to have their supporters vote for them first, second, third, fourth. You would just tell your supporters to vote for you first. There may be a whole separate set of supporters who already have a different first choice candidate than you, who you would ask to vote for you second or third.
Okay.
And I will get into very, very long detail about that in a full training, but I didn't want to inundate you guys. The full training is around 40 minutes.
We should void the whole thing.
Oh, really? It's 40 minutes? Okay. I will really slide out my.
I'm cutting it down to 30 minutes for you folks. 'Cause you already know information already, not the full voter
No,
phase.
anybody who pretends to know this stuff, you're gonna, so we should all try to get it as down pack as possible. We're gonna go to CB2, Lisa Della.
Yeah, anyway. My question is, if people, do you have flyers to hand out to folks at the board level? I know everyone's, gonna want to learn, and it'd be great if we could have a representative at our board meeting. But I know lots of people are gonna want to attend this training. And so do you have something we can share?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm hearing from everyone here that they love flyers, and so I'm going to take that away.
No, we want more than flyers. We want real presentations.
We're definitely going to have, at a minimum, a flyer for you, and we will have a full-fledged training presentation as well. And I will make sure that we include.
And I would hope
there.
you go into every community board to make sure this happens. We got a short period of time, and I'm concerned about rollout. We're gonna go to CB10, Betty Brayton.
Less a question, more of a comment. I have no issue whatsoever with ranked choice voting, from a perspective of, is it good or it's fine. My comment really relates to, we have disrupted, not we, but the world has disrupted everybody's lives with COVID. All of this disruption that we've seen in the last week, all of the concern over elections, that this may not be the time to actually implement a change in how people vote. It just doesn't seem to me that that's the wisest move. The legislature in Albany will be making changes to procedural things regarding voting. We've all learned from last year's election, that early voting is something people really took to. I have my concerns in how ranked choice voting is going to be counted. Are we going to see the situations where it's going to take time to count them, and then we're going to continue to contribute to people's suspicions of the process? To my way of thinking, although it's a good thing, it may be something we should wait a year to do. And as far as flyers go, definitely flyers. One of the realities that we at the community board level fully understand. Not everyone does Zoom. Not everyone reads websites. Not everyone's on social media. And it's so much of outreach these days depends on those things. And we're missing an awful lot of people. End of rant.
Thank you, Betty. I cannot comment on the implementation schedule. I am just following the law. My agency must do that. So we're trying with all of your help, hopefully, to educate as many voters as possible. I think you've brought up a couple of comments that are very salient. The fact that we live in a very uncertain time certainly doesn't contribute to an ideal place for us to be able to do outreach. We're not able to do in-person events as much as we'd like to, or really at all. So yeah, I definitely am sympathetic to that point.
Thank you. Are we missing any other questions, comments, or concerns? All righty, I'm going to go to Alexa CB6.
Thank you, Borough President. Regarding the training that the Borough President's office is sponsoring on the 19th and the 26th, is that open to anyone in Queens?
Yes.
And it'll be streaming to YouTube on your site?
Yes, we're gonna, I think we're working in the process of working on a flyer to put out as well.
Awesome.
So I know we're gonna get all this information out to you shortly. I think we just confirmed the dates and everything, so.
Great.
We're ready to rock.
Thank you. I'll let everyone, I'll announce it at the meeting on Wednesday, our board meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, any other comments, questions, or concerns? All righty, I want to thank you for being here. Look forward to working with you and strengthening this process. You heard from many of our chairs today about the concerns around ranked choice voting. I also urge you to reach outside of just the regular, and I respect all of the organizations that you mentioned, but there's a lot of civic association infrastructure here to get around in Queens. So I'm hoping we're gonna think about a lot of the also indigenous organizations on the ground in respective communities to also have them play a role. And like I said, everybody has a role to play here, but time is of the essence, especially with 2 special elections coming. So
thank you, Barbara President.
Thank you. Thank you. So look forward to the work ahead. With that being said, I want to thank you all for attending our first Borough Board meeting. I believe tomorrow morning at 10, we have a Borough Cabinet meeting, and we'll have the Department of Education. I believe the Deputy Chancellor will be presenting, and that was per request of some of you on this line and many of the district managers. So we look forward to continuing the dialogue on many issues, the myriad of issues that impact Queens residents. Thank you all. We did this in just about an hour, not bad, or a little bit over an hour. But I want to thank you all for attending. Be safe, social distance, mask up, and if you can, get vaccinated. Make your appointment. All righty. Thank you.